I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about the origins of Brujo, the first Brujo.
Okay. I'm a third generation New Mexican, so I was raised with the legends and the traditions of New Mexico and the Southwest. And I grew up with that, as I said. In fact, one of my best friend's aunts was a curandera when we were quite young. And curandera is a curanderismo is Hispanic for to cure, to heal. And so a curandera or a curandero are healers. And this is an ancient tradition. Now, I'll just throw this in right now because I did know this. And so that was part of what interested me. It led me to write this book. The flip side of curanderismo is brujeria, which is black magic. It's using, well, the idea is that if someone has the power to cure you, then they may have the power to harm you as well. And so a brujo or a bruja, depending on the sex, is a sorcerer, a witch. It's someone who uses the power for their own best ends rather than for someone else, as a curandera or curandero would be. So I had a magazine assignment. This was 25 years ago. Of course, I was only 10, but to write a feature story for the Santa Fe magazine about curanderismo, and I interviewed this lovely person, and we really talked about it, this a really wonderful healer, and we talked about it at length, and we talked about brujeria as well, and he warned me. He said, don't ever go near a brujo or bruja. They are seriously dangerous. So, okay. That sort of played in my mind after the story was in, and I got to playing that old what-if game that we writers play. What if? I thought, well, what if a Santa Fe journalist, married, mother of a teenage daughter, came into contact with a brujo on an assignment? And what if her husband traveled a lot and she felt neglected and lonely? That had to be a part of that too, because he was gone a lot. And what if this brujo was very charismatic, very sexy, and what if she got into really big trouble with him, with husband out of town? And so the characters just started developing in my mind. It was like a seed, and then they started blossoming. And for, I don't know, a year and a half after that, I continued to write for magazines, but I started researching about this, about brujeria, and I talked to curanderos, and I did encounter some brujos and brujas, but I didn't linger. They were scary, and they weren't going to talk to me anyway if they could help it, because I could tell them, I grew up around here, I came close to marrying a Mexican man, my great-grandmother was full-blooded Native American. They didn't care. They weren't buying it anyway. I was blonde, and so they didn't want to tell me anything. Gradually, I did win. I won the trust of some of them, and so I researched, and I started writing. And I wrote, and I wrote, and I rewrote. A whole forest suffered. I'm so sorry now. But finally, I had my book. And then something really incredible happened. It was filmed as a movie, Seduced by Evil. It was produced by our own Marty Markinson, who is sitting right here. And it was for TV. It was a TV movie. Well, you can imagine, I was just stunned. I was so excited I could hardly stand it. And then it did fairly well. It did quite well. And the movie starred Suzanne Summers.